Okay, so these are the learning objectives for today's session. So we're going to explore the changing world of work and the skills that employers value. We're going to look into the role of entrepreneurial thinking in career success. I'm hoping that you'll have a greater understanding of the importance of mindset in personal and professional growth. And of course, it's a really fantastic opportunity for us to connect with each other and for you to know where to go for support when you're looking for career and employment support. So as I said, lovely to meet you all. Okay, question for you. Who's heard of the Industrial Revolution? Who knows what we're talking about? Put your hand up. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah? A few of you nodding. Yep, you've heard of the Industrial Revolution. Fantastic. So it was a long time ago, the one that we all kind of learnt about in history and that kind of thing. So what happened, right? It occurred across Great Britain, America, Europe in the late 18th century and involved massive technological and social change. So basically what was originally made by hand now became made by factories and machines and required really large concentrations of labour. So this is where we see people moving from basically agricultural society to the cities. And that's why we now have the structures of towns and cities that we have today. It absolutely transformed society from rural and agrarian to industrialised and urban. So I promise that is the end of the history lesson, but I put that in there for you because it gives you a little bit of context as to where we are now. So we are actually in the fourth industrial revolution. You will hear this referred to as Industry 4.0, 4IR. It's got lots of different terms. And this era started in around 2010. It represents really the next phase in digitisation of the manufacturing sector. It's driven by disruptive trends, including the rise of data, connectivity, analytics, human-machine interactions and improvements in robotics. And there's an excerpt here from a McKinsey report that I strongly encourage you to have a read of if you are a little bit interested in this. I'm going to send this presentation to you all after our session today, and all these links are live. You can go in here and read more for yourself if you're interested. So how does all this affect the skills you will need to succeed in the workplace and to have happy and successful careers? The skills that employers value in their workers has changed really rapidly, really recently. So since that 2010 date when we've entered the fourth industrial revolution. So there's a report here from the Foundation for Young Australians called the New Work Smarts, and it tells us that workers will spend 30% more time learning on the job, almost 100% more time at work solving problems, 41% more time on critical thinking and judgment, 77% more time using science and mathematical skills, and 17% more time per week using verbal communication and interpersonal skills. We are all going to need an entrepreneurial mindset because there's going to be less management, less organisational coordination and less teaching. We're going to have to look after this for ourselves. Okay. And to do all of this, we are going to need a combination of foundation, technical and enterprise skills. So we all need to acquire these skills. So what am I talking about? Foundational skills are your literacy, language and numeracy. Your technical skills you can think of as your discipline knowledge. They might be related to a specific task, role or an industry and conclude your qualifications. And enterprise skills. So these are transferable skills. We're looking at things like problem solving, communication, teamwork and creativity. So our cognitive and emotional skill sets need to be developed to a much higher level to be successful in this new world of work. We all need to be prepared for a journey of lifelong learning and be confident to work autonomously. We all need to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, all of those things that we've just talked about, but we really actually need to be strong communicators first. We need to be able to communicate well with others. So there are lots of different ways you can develop skills, knowledge and capabilities in entrepreneurship. Within your programs of study. Now we're talking about entrepreneurial thinking here because it's very closely linked to growth of our enterprise skill sets. Is anyone a business student or doing any of the courses that are on the page in front of you? Are doing any of these innovation or enterprise courses? Pop your hand up if you are. There's lots of opportunities at Griffith to be able to do these kinds of courses in a formal way within your program. But you can actually achieve this in lots of areas of your life. You can grow your enterprise skill sets and grow your entrepreneurial thinking in lots of ways. So let's have a think about how can you develop your skills in this area? So if we think about problem solving, teamwork, communication, creativity, how might you already be developing these skill sets? Pop something in the chat that tells me how you think you're already developing these skill sets. I'll give you a second to do that. So think about where in your life you need to be a really good problem solver, where you need creativity, critical thinking skills, communication skills, teamwork skills. Where are you already developing these skills in your life? Think about your study, think about your work. Yeah, Amy says at work. Genevieve says mentoring from someone already in the industry. Fantastic. See what else you have to say. Ella says when you're first starting an occupation, meeting new people, you need to be able to communicate. Exactly. So there's lots of ways that we can do this. A couple of other examples might be getting involved in community projects, initiatives. Maybe you want to volunteer for something. Maybe there's a big social enterprise thing happening in your community that you want to get involved in. Maybe you're thinking about learning a new skill. It can be anything from a new sport to maybe a musical instrument to learning another language. These are all incredibly useful ways to develop your enterprise skill sets and your entrepreneurial thinking. Okay. So as a Griffith University student, the Sustainable Development Goals will become more and more familiar to you as they are embedded across all teaching, research and operations by 2025. Enterprise thinking and entrepreneurial skill sets are really important to allow us to meet the SDGs. Governments and social entrepreneurs are working together to make the SDGs a reality for communities across the world. And I'll just share with you an example. This example is actually a Griffith example from the Griffith Asia Institute. And this is a focus on innovation and entrepreneurship within Pacific communities, in agricultural communities, small growers. There's a real focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. It's about sustainability. It's about supporting livelihoods and contributing to broader economic growth. So it's also about fostering environments for new opportunities to support the creation of more viable and resilient enterprises. So as you can hear from the kinds of language that I'm using, this is actually relevant not just in the not-for-profit sector, but also in the corporate and the government sectors. Okay. Employers are looking for workers that have these skill sets. And I'll just show you something from the corporate sector. It's an example for you showing a commitment to sustainability initiatives. That's now really standard across all industries and sectors. This example is a Coca-Cola example. I actually found it fascinating reading through this because immediately my mind went to, oh, the healthy aspect. But if you have a read of this, really interesting to see what they're doing in terms of sustainability initiatives. The idea behind this movement is that corporations want to demonstrate they're giving back to society, they're aligning profit and purpose, engaging in responsible business practices and advocating for social issues. So this is happening across all sectors and we need the skill sets to be able to do this. It's really big business. So sustainability careers are in all industries and sectors. I did a really quick SEEK search. I think it was last week when I was preparing this presentation, and across Australia, there are over 16,000 roles at that particular point in time that involved sustainability. So it's really big business. I think you think, oh yes, it's all great information, Kerry, but how do we actually go and do this? How do we do this? How do we adopt enterprise skill sets? How do we get into this entrepreneurial thinking mode? How do we prepare for this really rapidly changing world of work? And the really good news is, as humans, we're all able to do this. We're uniquely able to. You already have the tools built in, okay? Has anyone heard of neuroplasticity? Stick your hand up if you've heard of neuroplasticity. Yeah, cool. Nice. So it used to be thought that the smarts, like the intellect that you were born with, were the ones you had for life. Okay, so you know when people say things like they don't have the brain for maths, they're no good at writing. That's the kind of attitude that many of us have when we're reflecting on what our capabilities and our skills and things are. So with research into neuroscience, we know this is not the case. The brain is actually a really dynamic organ, and if I've got any psychology students in the room or science students, I'm sure that you could probably deliver this section of the session. But this is just fascinating. The brain wires and rewires constantly. Scientists can call it all sorts of things. So they call it things like structural remodeling. So while our brains are more plastic in childhood, it seems to be easier when you're a child to learn new skills. Our brains actually continue to develop throughout life. So this diagram is really handy. It actually shows us that with the experiences we have throughout life, we can create new neural connections. And it is repetition and practice that strengthens these neural connections. Okay. So who remembers what it was like to try and learn a new skill set? Riding a bike, riding a skateboard, roller skating. I'm thinking of sports things because they're the things I struggled with. If you haven't done it in a while, you get on the bike and you're a bit wobbly, you're a bit rusty, but after you've practiced and after a little while, it usually comes back to you. Yeah. So what's happening there is that when you haven't done something in a while, you've got weakened synapses. So connections in the brain that aren't used become weak. We need to use them. They're like a muscle to actually remain strong. Okay. Now, I explain all this to you because it's really important for understanding growth mindset and preparing ourselves really for a changing world of work. So surely most of you have heard of growth mindset. Put your hand up if you've heard of it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so quite a few of you have heard of this, but it is actually incredibly important for preparing yourself for the future world of work. In fact, the world of work now. There is an eminent psychologist called Professor Carol Dweck. She actually coined the term growth mindset when she researched how people's underlying beliefs about themselves and their abilities can affect their lives. So there's plenty of videos and articles. There's like a load of TED Talks, Google Talks that you might find interesting on this topic. And I've popped the links to the resources in the end of this presentation. So basically, in a nutshell, a growth mindset drives motivation and achievement. All right. So this concept is shaped our understanding of learning, describes the underlying beliefs that people have about learning and intelligence. So when people believe they can get smarter, they understand that effort makes them stronger. Okay, this is growth mindset. They put in the extra time and effort, and this leads to higher achievement. So if you have a look at that diagram on the left, you can see some examples of growth mindset and the things that we tell ourselves. Think about your internal monologue, okay? You might say things like, I can learn to do anything I want, challenges help me grow, etc. And the fixed mindset might be like, I'm either good at it or I'm not. I don't like to be challenged. When I'm frustrated, I give up, all of those kinds of things. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. It's really important to note that when people believe they can get smarter, they understand that effort makes them stronger. So putting in extra time and effort leads to higher achievement. This is neuroplasticity in action. Okay, and how we deal with feedback is actually a really important consideration in growth mindset. So while I'm just talking through this, have a think about a time that you learned something new, you were particularly committed to it. Okay, you were determined you were going to learn that new thing. Have a think, what did that process look like for you? Was it really difficult? What was your internal monologue telling you? Have a think about some of that internal talk, and just pop in the chat some of the things that you sort of said to yourself when you've been learning something new. Don't mind if it sits on the growth mindset or the fixed mindset side of things, but just pop in the chat some of the things that you say to yourself when you are learning a new skill. And while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit about feedback and the importance of how we deal with feedback. So it's actually a really important consideration in growth mindset. Individuals with a growth mindset found negative feedback more valuable and less threatening, leading them to allocate more time to understand the feedback. I'm actually reading directly from a recent research paper on this. In contrast, individuals with a fixed mindset responded to negative feedback by reducing their attention and effort. They were then less likely to correctly comprehend feedback and learn from their failures. Okay. So just think about that in terms of how you deal with feedback. Think about what your natural inclination is. Think about how you might be able to think a little differently about feedback that you receive. Joanna V says, if others can do it, I can do it too. That's fantastic. Looking around you, seeing successes around you and thinking, I can do that. Ella says, take it one step at a time. Don't jump ahead to the end goal too quickly. So Ella, I think you'd be very good at breaking your tasks down into small steps, small achievable steps. It's great. Amy says, I've already put in the effort to try something new. I might as well achieve it. It'll help me grow. I quite like that, Amy. It's one of those things where you think, oh my goodness, I've already put in all this effort. I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to quit now. Bit of a mix, but really more on the growth mindset side of things. So think about a time, has anyone ever received some really valuable advice or feedback when they've been trying to learn something new? What made a difference to you? Would you pop it in the chat? I think we can all learn from each other. Give you a minute to do that. Kind of be specific, measurable, delivered, timely. Is that the SMART goals? That sort of SMART goals set? Yeah, nice. So SMART goals are actually, it's such a good framework. It's been around forever, but honestly, it's the best. Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time bound. So if you can frame anything new within that framework and think about how you can achieve it, then it's good. It's really helpful. Amy says, been told I need to stop doubting myself and be more confident. It was really an eye-opener that I was the one holding me back. Made me really change my mindset. Fantastic. Ella says, there are things that you can and can't control. Don't beat yourself up over the things you can't control. Exactly. So Ella, I think I was talking to you about spheres of influence. And basically, if you think about yourself in the middle of a circle, and then concentric circles around that. Some of you might know about this already, but in its most basic form, do some reading on it if you want to. Oh, that's my child home. Can you hear her? She's you might hear a little bit of running around. You're in the middle and you have influence over a certain number of things in your life. So you can influence your actions. It's that kind of thought, okay? What you can't influence are the things that sit outside that. So the way people perceive you, for example, is one example. Environmental and social conditions exist around you, okay? So really a good idea to think about things you can and can't control. Thank you for that, everyone. Now, I think this is a really good explainer because when we think about learning a new skill, it's to understand the process of attaining that skill, okay? So the diagram on the left illustrates that purpose. So in the discomfort zone, people are most likely to change and learn how to do things differently. And that's that second step in the red circle where it says, this is so difficult, I don't think I can do it. It's the most difficult, it's the most challenging, but you need to go through all of the steps before you can master a new skill, okay? Before you can get to that, yes, I can do it. And a really important part of this is failure. Now, we all hear this, we hear this rhetoric all the time, but there's no getting around it. This is how we learn. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from failing. We learn from picking ourselves back up and trying again, trying something different, okay? So the second step, this is really difficult step, is where most people, if they're going to give up, this is where they give up. But if they push through like the way we did when any of us learn any new skill, it becomes easier over time and you don't have to think about it by the time you get to the end. So the diagram on the right shows this in another way by representing the process as learning zones. So it's that third zone out, that beigey coloured learning zone that leads to growth. But to do that, we actually need to step outside the familiar, the secure, the certain. We kind of have to transcend the fear zone. Really important for us to get to that learning zone, and then off to the growth zone we go. It's that magical place. So this is where we increase our knowledge, we acquire new skills, we develop confidence, we feel really motivated. So it's really important, though, to recognise that we all have our own individual optimal zones for growth, and we can tip over into stress and anxiety if we don't have the appropriate supports around us when we're learning a new skill. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is an individual thing. All right, what's going to make you stressed or anxious, and what your comfort zone looks like is going to be really different from someone else's. So we really need to keep this in mind and think about what supports we have around us. So pop in the chat, what supports do you have around you when you are learning something new? It might be formal learning, informal learning. What supports do you have? We can all learn from each other here. I'd love to hear from you all. I'll give you a minute to be able to pop a comment in. So think about your internal support. So you might think about strengths, you might think about values, you might think about understanding your own helpful and unhelpful thinking styles. Think about what you have externally. So think about community, peers, friends. Amy says formal, other staff members, training facilitators, managers, informal, gym coach, family, friends, partner. One of Eve says family, friends, peers. That's fantastic. These are all really important supports for us. We need this support network around us when we are learning a new skill. Okay. There's lots of ways that you can do this at uni too. So you can join a club or a society or an interest group that will help you develop a new skill set. We talked about things like joining maybe a community of practice. So joining some sort of club in your community where people try new things. Maybe it's an art group, maybe it's a language group. You know, there's lots that we can do to really get us into the learning zone and the growth zone. It's going to benefit us in all areas of our life. You know, it's for our personal growth and for our career success. So I talked a little bit about the zone of discomfort and the fact that we actually need to make mistakes. We need to fail. We need to pull ourselves back up and try new things. I put a little quote here. I want you to have a think, who is this famous person? And what strategies do you think they use to overcome failure? So this person said they've missed more than 9,000 shots in their career. They've lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, they've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot and they missed. They've failed over and over and over again in their life, and that is why they succeeded. Now, the internet is full of quotes like this. Yeah, it could be Sam Kerr, could be LeBron James. I know it could be so many of the sports people that that we look up to and admire and that kind of thing too. I've used a sports example here because I quite liked this one. This person's actually Michael Jordan. I don't know if anyone saw the recent Matt Damon movie. It's about Nike and the establishment of Nike and the Air Jordan story, basically. So I don't know if anyone's seen that movie. It was fantastic. This is before Michael Jordan was famous. No one wanted him. Nike weren't even going to take him on. But he had something really critical. Other than talent and skill, he had an amazing family. His mother was his #1 supporter, and he had loads of amazing peers around him. So this is all the sort of, you know, secrets to success. Not really a secret, it all makes sense. But this is what he required to be successful in his career. Okay. So we've already done this one where we thought of a time we've failed at something, etc., and strategies we can use to get through. And I love what you've told yourself. I love the internal talk, the internal monologue that you've all reflected on. So just be quite mindful of what you tell yourself so that, you know, you're erring more on that side of the growth mindset, which is around posing questions like, how might I achieve something, rather than, oh, that's totally out of my reach. You know, think about the skill sets you have, think about the skill sets you need and the resources you need, the support you need to make that happen. And that's going to be really important as you all advance through your careers. Well, thank you so much. That was an absolute whirlwind tour of mindsets for personal growth and career success. Hopefully you got a little bit out of that. It's just a taster. If you are interested in exploring this further, there's lots of resources. I'll just show you where they are. Here they are, and I will send you this document anyway, and you can go into these. But what I would love if you could please provide some feedback. It'll take you about 15 seconds. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. I'll just stop sharing. And I'm going to grab that link. We are running these for the first time, and your feedback's really important to us to make them better for the future. Tell us what you want. It's anonymous. We won't know who is providing that feedback, and we take it all really seriously. It helps us make things better for future students. So I'll just quickly wrap up. Okay. Oh. All right, so please do come and see us if you are finding that you need support for careers and employment. Careers and employment services are here for you. Okay, we're running more of these career essentials sessions. You can see the link here. We've also got a design your career journey session. These are all online. It's this one here, design your career journey, is all about action planning for your career success. Okay. Further resources for you to look into, including that Character Work TED Talk. This is a lovely team. So if you make a career appointment, you're likely to see one of us. These are all the things we can help you with, but please contact us on this email here, career-opportunity@Griffith, if you have any questions, and we will make sure we get back to you.